Help us level the playing field. Sign the parliamentary petition today to fuel the growth and fund the game.
Live action here today at the Senol NPL Victoria Women's, live from Lakeside Stadium. Here today between South Melbourne and Essendon Royals. Pre-match mic check here conducted by Daniel Christie. Hello and welcome to round 26 action of the Senol NPL Victoria Women's live from Lakeside Stadium. I'm your commentator, Daniel Christie, joined by Oscar Rutherford, bringing you this exciting Sunday afternoon clash between South Melbourne and Essendon Royals. The starting lineups for today's game, starting with the home team, who haven't made any changes from their 3-0 win last week against Melbourne City. In goals, we will have Gio Candy, back four of Grace Taranto, Isabella Wallhead, Sophie Papatzanis, and at left back it'll be Francesca Iamano, with the midfield three combination of Michaela Schmelzer, Misha Westland, and Clancy Westaway. And then in our front three forward positions, Alexis Pantazopoulos, Emily Roach in the number 9, and Emily Collier starting out on the left wing position. For the away team, Essendon Royals, we'll have Zara Board in goals, and then a familiar back four of Amy Parkinson, Michaela Jurcic, Kendra Smith, and Akeisha Sandu at left back, with the midfield three being Ayano Koizumi, Kobe Wilbert and Grace Marr, who will be coming into the starting lineup for Paige Kingston Hogg, who drops to the bench, with a front three of Bronte Peel, Kelly McGrowarty and Maggie Jenkins. The match will be officiated today by centre referee Angelique Manjon, who will be partnered with Helena Panagiotidis and Liam Nikovsky. Cool and partly cloudy here at Lakeside Stadium, around 15 degrees, with a light to moderate southerly breeze blowing off Albert Park Lake toward the city end. Virtually no chance of rain this afternoon either, and the pitch looks in really good nick. We'll have Essendon Royals kicking from left to right towards the city in their all-red kit, with South Melbourne in their all-blue kicking towards the Albert Park Lake. So Oscar, should be quite a fascinating encounter in store today.
Well, Daniel, we've made it. Final day of the season and a glorious day as well to boot. South Melbourne and Essendon Royals, two teams who will be playing finals next week. South Melbourne all but mathematically guaranteed a top 6 finish, but that shouldn't really be a storyline from today. Essendon Royals still in with a chance of claiming a premiership crown, of course. That will require perhaps one of the upsets of the season for Box Hill not to win at Melbourne City. But yeah, it's a fantastic day. Two teams who are expecting to see again in September, and two who have been some of the hardest to beat in the competition. It's a bit of a contest of attack versus defence, as we see the first shot fired in by South Melbourne, comfortably watched by Zara Board. Of course, the former South Melbourne player herself is Zara Board. But yeah, attack against defence in a lot of ways. Essendon Royals, the highest scoring team in the division this season. South Melbourne having conceded the fewest goals of any team as well. So a stylistic contrast and a lot to look forward to, I think.
Absolutely, that is the big difference between these two teams. 30 goals, in fact, as the ball makes its way down the right-hand side for South Melbourne. It's Emily Collier making her way down the line and cut off really well by Akeisha Sandu, who gets her toe in there and pokes it out for the first corner of the day. It looks like Emily Collier starting out on the right wing and Pantazopoulos starting out on the left-hand side, both looking to be able to cut in and shoot. But those 32 goals by Kelly McGrowarty, really the difference between these two teams. South Melbourne have struggled to be able to find the right combination up top to be able to ensure that they can compete at that end of the pitch consistently throughout the entire season. A goal every 68 minutes for her this season. Quite a remarkable effort, as it'll be Emily Roach swinging in this corner, who's been fantastic leading the line in the last few weeks for South Melbourne. A really smooth mover is Roach, firing this one into the box. It's just a scramble there temporarily, cleared away by Parkinson. Only as far as Papatzanis. Plays the ball inside to Westaway. Cut off by Wilbert. Schmelzer now on the ball. And Essendon Royals will have a chance to reset and spread the play early on here at Lakeside Stadium.
Damien, you mentioned Kelly McGrawdy. What an unbelievable impact she's had on this Essendon Royals team and indeed on the season, of course, on a record-breaking run as well. 13 consecutive NPLW games in which she's scored now. An unbelievable streak of scoring, which has contributed to her tally coming into today of 32 NPLW goals alone. Add on a few more for her exploits in the Nike Cup too. So she's no doubt going to be one of the major threats on the pitch this afternoon, as we see South Melbourne making another foray forward through Clancy Westaway. And Westaway winning her team a corner. So a positive start for Justin Micallef's team. South Melbourne pinning back their visitors in the opening exchanges. South Melbourne can finish the regular season as high as 5th with a win this afternoon. And if Burundara were to be upset by Keilor Park, more likely they'll end up in 6th. And well, the odds are that they'll end up playing Bulleen in an elimination final, while, as mentioned, Essendon Royals can climb to the top of the tree, but would need quite the favour from Melbourne City for that to be the outcome. Let alone, of course, beating the opponents in front of them today in South Melbourne, who have started the better of the two teams. Another delivery into the heart of the box. Headed away initially. A little half clearance from Michaela Jurcic, and eventually the ball does find its way away from the danger zone from the Royals' perspective. But it's been red hot from South Melbourne in the opening stages of this one. They, of course, with a point to prove as well. Games like this can have such an impact on the psychology of teams going into finals. South Melbourne, if they were to knock off Essendon Royals this afternoon, that would give them such a boost heading into September action, feeling like they know that their best football can beat any of those other finals teams. Touch there from Westaway, ball just getting a little bit away from her, and Ayano Koizumi thumping it into touch.
It's a good point you make there, Oscar. When they do play their best football, South Melbourne, they are competition for literally anyone in the NPL Victoria Women's. But in the last few weeks, probably just haven't been playing their best football. Last win coming in round 20 against Spring Hills, which was 1-0. And although they had a formidable home record, as the ball just from Jenkins over the top there will roll through to Candy, a little counter-attacking opportunity there. They had a superb home record, as I was saying before, stumbling to Bulleen Lions and Keilor Park in the last few weeks. So typically very strong at home is South Melbourne. But they just need to be able to sharpen up their play, and it seems, so far, in the beginning opening exchanges of this game, they've certainly come to play. As Bronte Peel tries to be able to play it ahead to Grace Maher, making the run in behind. I tell you what, that's going to be a fascinating battle today. Bronte Peel versus Francesca Iamano, and on the far side, Maggie Jenkins versus Grace Taranto. Certainly will keep the South Melbourne defence extremely busy. 76 goals to their name this season, Essendon Royals.
Yeah, just picking up on what you said about South Melbourne's relatively poor form over the last couple of months. They do have wins against their finals rivals across the course of the season. You mentioned their really strong home record. So that ball again is straightforward claim for Zara Board, but you know, they won, I think it was their first 8 games at Lakeside this season, but in the 6 since, they've only won 1. When you look at their record against other top 6 teams, I think they won 3 of their first 4, but haven't won any of the last 5. So it tells you that the teams around them, South Melbourne, have gotten stronger as the season's gone on, and that's the reason that South Melbourne are probably going to finish 6th this season, and they'll be playing against the odds if they are to win any final, let alone make a deep run to perhaps the final day in September.
The ball will spill through to G.A. Candy here, and South Melbourne will have a chance to reset. I'm really looking forward to how Michaela Schmelzer kind of anchors the midfield. Saw her in that role last week against Melbourne City, super composed, can be able to play with both feet and kind of really dictate the tempo of this South Melbourne team when they go forwards. It'll be really interesting to see how she handles the threat of Grace Maher, who is certainly looking to be able to drift around and pick up those pockets of space where she feels that she can be able to have a difference on the play. As Papazanis just gets there ahead of McGrawity. Schmelzer with the head down. And Angelique Manjon, the centre ref, just signals towards the Essendon Royals bench as it looks like Koizumi has just taken a knock and will hug her knees to her chest for just a little bit of a spell. Maybe took the wind out of it from a header coming across there from Michaela Schmelzer. So it'll be interesting to see how Essendon Royals really attack this game. They certainly want to win to be able to put pressure on Box Hill for what could be a historic day. We can't forget for the visitors, Oscar.
No, and as we see Ayana Koizumi just getting a little bit of attention, doesn't look as if it's anything too serious. You mentioned the defensive selection of Justin Mikulev. It is a really interesting case having Sophie Papatsanis come into the team over the last few weeks and take up a central defensive role with Grace Taranto still at fullback and Michaela Schmelzer, who spent most of the season at the heart of defence, stepping into midfield. I do wonder what the thinking is behind that. Consider Franny Iamano is, of course, very capable of playing more centrally, Papatsanis more typically a fullback. So clearly, Justin Mikulev believes something about the balance of his team suits having Schmelzer higher up and Papatsanis at the heart of defence. I mean, it's hard to question his defensive acumen as a coach, considering how stingy South Melbourne have been, but certainly something to keep an eye on.
It must be difficult. So many ins and outs and changes across the season as it's gone on, trying to find that right balance. Typically, South Melbourne lined up with a 4-4-2 for the large majority of the season. It's only in the last few weeks we've seen them line up in a 4-3-3. As the ball falls to Grace Ma, who will have a pop and try and beat and catch Gia Candy off her line. Not on this occasion, but an audacious effort there from Ma from all about 25 yards out, nearly finding the top corner of the net. As Pantazopoulos and Emily Collier have switched wings here already in this game. Westaway with some space to operate, but Jurcic comes across and be able to clear that really confidently and well. That defensive partnership between Kendra Smith and Michaela Jurcic has been absolutely fantastic so far this season. And I'm also looking forward to see how Amy Parkinson and Bronte Peel are able to link up and really attack the left-hand side of that South Melbourne defence. As you mentioned, Oscar, Iamano's had to do a job in the last few weeks at left-back, but not really her ideal or preferred position. But the blueprint for South Melbourne, from what I've seen this season, has been driving towards the byline, getting those cutbacks to players arriving and getting their shots on goal. They've been really dangerous at being able to do that. Pantazopoulos being a key example. Her ability to be able to drive and dribble at the defence has been something that is evident every time South Melbourne play.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hesitate to call any position Franny Iamano's preferred position. She's such a versatile attribute to have for any coach, and we've seen her play to great effect really across all parts of the pitch. Of course, that wide position, as you say, allows her to get forward and contribute to attacking moves as well. Player with the armband whose contributions are not just footballing in terms of her technical ability and vision and passing and pace, but just also, if you ever get to chat to Franny, such a rabid competitor, always trying to urge herself and teammates over the line in the game of football. As Gio Candy sends this goal kick up towards the halfway line. It's quickly been won back by the Royals. Here is McGrawdy, who looks out to the left. Jenkins, well, just totally mistimed the strike at that and sliced underneath it. So South Melbourne escaping without needing to do too much defending that time round. Just starting to get a few glimpses of the McGrawdy-Jenkins partnership and what they can do.
Maggie Jenkins was truly fantastic last week in that 3-1 win against Heidelberg, linking up really well with McGrawdy. You can just see two really good players on the same wavelength, the difference that it can make in those short 1-2 combinations that they have and how quick they do it. And Essendon Royals not afraid to take the direct approach, which I'm not totally surprised with. It'll take a little while into the game before we see Koizumi get on the ball a little bit more. It's Bronte Peel here cutting to the byline, but coming across really well is Isabella Wallhead, who will be a massive threat from set pieces for South Melbourne this afternoon, given the opportunity, scoring one after 2 minutes last week. Emily Roach will get on the end of this one and will look to switch the play really well to Grace Taranto with her sleeves up today and a strike ferocious on goals. Zara Board, the remedial massage therapist by trade, Perth-born, palming that one for a corner. But Grace Taranto, you can see that she's not mucking around today. Really showing off her guns. And the power on that strike at the near post was really testing and boarding goals. 7 clean sheets for both teams, funnily enough. As you mentioned in the intro, South Melbourne have only conceded 24 goals this year. But all eyes are on Wallhead and Schmelzer here, who will be the predominant targets from this Roach corner. She floated in the first one. This one will drop to Wallhead, who had quite a bit to do from about 11 yards out, running away from goal, and just had her headed opportunity there go above and beyond the goals. And Essendon Royals now with the chance to be able to build up and actually play through. They opt to go wide, and the ball goes out for a throw-in. Iamano will pick it up. It's just where I want to see Wilbert and Koizumi, who are operating in those 2 anchoring roles in the defensive midfield position for Royals, just get on it a little bit more. Because when Koizumi does, her ability to be able to switch the play from side to side and her vision is quite remarkable, one of the best in the league. Jurcic opting for the long approach. Papatzanis does well to get ahead of McGrowarty on that occasion. It's going to be a fascinating battle. You would expect McGrowarty to be peeling off to Papatzanis rather than going toe-to-toe with Wallhead, but that's certainly going to be a battle that I look forward to being able to see how it unfolds across the afternoon. Ma switching the play out to Smith. Again, straight down the middle of the pitch. Papatzanis does really well. Cries for a handball, waved away by Manjon. South Melbourne will have a chance to step up the pitch here. You can see Akeisha Sandu on the far side, how far she's pushed up. So much space out in that left fullback position if Essendon Royals can find it next time they have it. Papatzanis into Schmelzer. Great pass into the feet of Westerway, who turns and finds Roach looking for a 1-2. She gets it back. Still a lot of work to do to get to goals, and it's cut off really well by Wilbert. And Royals will go down the other end, and this is how they like it. End-to-end football, using their pace. Great pass from Peel into Jenkins, who stays onside, and it's a tackle by Taranto. Looked like she got more of her opponent than she did the ball. Wave play on. Schmelzer clears only as far as McGrowarty, who goes down as well. And it's deemed to be a goal kick. Tough call there, Oscar.
That looked to be like a really well-timed challenge from Grace Taranto. Coming in at an awkward angle would have been so easy to give away a foul and the penalty, but looked like she got it just right to ensure that South Melbourne avoid a Maggie Jenkins shot on goal. Scrambling back well, South Melbourne, but Essendon Royals really starting to get their teeth into this game now with a few more attacking moves. Seeing the threat they pose with the ball and on the counter. They can score from all sorts of situations, the Essendon Royals. Follow up from the Taranto tackle, seeing Kelly McGroarty just bumped off the ball, looked to be more shoulder to shoulder than anything, so not much consternation from any of the Essendon Royals players as the visitors continue with the ball at their feet. Once again, McGroarty's the target, but well read by Bella Wallhead, stepping out of the defensive line. Here is Koizumi, who, as Daniel mentioned, has been such a pivotal part of this Essendon Royals team. First time we've really seen the Royals with an extended spell of possession as Grace Maher pinches back the ball. Here is Jenkins, Maggie Jenkins, just unable to get the power necessary to test Gio Candy properly. But it's the first time in the game that you really feel Essendon Royals are on top of the general play over the last few minutes. Well, this will be the test for South Melbourne in these situations when the Royals are applying the pressure. Just about every outfield player in the South Melbourne half. What's their route out? They've found a way this time. Have Hellas with the long clearing ball falling favourably for them. And we'll gain an extra 10 or 20 metres with that throw booted out by Koizumi. Essendon Royals have been such a tough team to beat. Home and away, their away records extraordinarily impressive this campaign. 12 of 16 games won away from Cross Keys. There aren't many who are as threatening and as effective away from their home venue. But Essendon Royals are one of them, as we see Michaela Schmelzer in the middle of the park hoping to pick out Panterzopoulos, but there's a little bit too much on the ball. Always funny games, those concurrent kickoffs on the final day of the season. So many variables, depending on how other results go, how will that affect what either of these teams need or want. You always just get that sense that the energy in the game is a little bit different, as we see Kendra Smith very nearly coughing up possession to Roach, but did enough to pick out Michaela Jurcic cross field. And Jurcic has committed a foul on Emily Collier in the aftermath, so South Melbourne will get another look to perhaps swing a ball in towards the penalty area.
And these moments, Oscar, throughout this game will be absolutely key for South Melbourne if they can make the most of it. As I said, they've got the aerial presence. Westland with the cross in this time. Board comes out, punches it really well, and now Royals have an opportunity to counter. Koizumi has absolutely nothing ahead of her. Plays a hopeful pass into Bronte Peel, who has 7 assists to her name so far this season, equal with Sandu. The visitors today average 18 shots per game. They play quite an open style of football. They average about 54% possession, but being quite a dominant team and having technically really good players isn't a total surprise to me. But it's the fact that they're happy to be able to not only create as many chances as they do, but they do leave themselves a little bit vulnerable at times. And you can see that with 28 goals conceded so far this season. There is avenues for South Melbourne to be able to play and be able to break them down. It's whether they can do it and have the ability to do so. So Emily Collier and Panterzopoulos have big jobs ahead of them to be able to get the better of their opponents in Parkinson and Sandu respectively. Akeisha Sandu, a note out to her, she's been one of the outstanding left-backs of the league this season, both going forwards, her deliveries from set pieces, and just her calmness in possession is a joy to see.
Yeah, and of course Sandu, a South Melbourne legend, spent a number of years here at Lakeside, won the Nike Cup last season, scored the winning penalty for South, won the grand final back in 2023 as well, so always interesting to see a player with such a storied history at South Melbourne coming back to Lakeside in the colours of a different team.
Grace Maher playing it into the feet of Wilbert and trying to get it back. Sorry, it was Jenkins on that occasion trying to link up with Wilbert, who has the ball now in the middle of the park with space, but just didn't pick out the right pass. Panterzopoulos is able to intercept, but Wilbert, as she does in fine fashion, wins it back straight away. McGrowarty on the far-hand side, step over, cutting to the byline, crossing it, just wasn't able to pick out anyone in red on that occasion, as Collier does well to be able to break through. 2 on her, though. Emily Collier does fantastic to be able to get away from the pressure, just can't find the pass, and the game is opening up here. Ma decides to slow it down. Just under 22 minutes gone in this game. If you're joining us here on the YouTube live stream, thank you very much for doing so, wherever you are tuning in from around the world. It's currently 0-0, and quite a tightly contested game so far. Wallhead going up with Jenkins, and Jurcic winning that header. The free ball will spill out to Iamano, who looks for the feet of Roach. Really dense and compact in that midfield area so far. in this game, making it difficult for both teams to be able to play through. You can see Schmelzer breaking her neck to be able to find some space there, which she does, gets it, and plays a really nice ball forwards, but Zara Board doing what she does best, trying to sweep, but didn't kick it out when she had the opportunity to. Pantazopoulos, it's a goal from an unbelievable angle. And Zara Board just had a moment there, a lapse in concentration, and Pantazopoulos did fantastic to be able to nudge her off it. But I wasn't expecting her to score from that angle, Oscar.
Well, that is a nightmare for Zara Board. Not a moment she'll be looking back on with any great fondness. Got herself between Pantazopoulos and the ball, but then just the really clever body work from Pantazopoulos and the finish from that angle. I mean, yes, there's no goalkeeper, but still so tough to get the curl on the ball right and to have enough pace on it as well so that you don't allow any of the defenders to get back and clear. That's a sensational finish from Alexis Pantazopoulos, one of the brightest young talents in this competition. Her 10th across all competition of the campaign as well. And well, South Melbourne now find themselves 1-0 to the good. A result that, if Burundara are unable to beat Keilor Park, would see South leapfrog them into 5th, as well as rendering the Melbourne City Box Hill result meaningless and securing a Box Hill premiership. Still a long time to go. It's a bit against the run of play, that Pantazopoulos goal, but a really superb finish from that angle as we see the long ball lofted in, but watched the whole way by Gio Canty.
I like how Michaela Schmelzer got on the ball really early there and just had one thought in her mind, to get it out of her feet, play it down the flank. We know that the Essendon Royals defence loves to push up extremely high, and just on that occasion, they got slightly caught out. Now, had Board just been able to clear it out of play for a throw-in, there would have been no harm and danger to that attack. But I like the intent from South Melbourne early on in this game. It's much better than what I've seen over the last few weeks. And Essendon Royals now have it all to do just to be able to create something a little bit more clear-cut. Wilbert doing really well in just being able to clean up those dirty scraps in the midfield and keep recycling possession for the Royals. Jurcic, again with the straightforward ball, right down the middle of the pitch. Very easy for South Melbourne to be able to defend. It's up to the likes of Wilbert and Koizumi now to start getting on the ball and being able to find Jenkins and peel in that space. We can see that Parkinson has pushed up further and further. Sandu really being able to test out Pantazopoulos on that far side of the pitch, if you can see, allowing the wingers to invert for Essendon Royals. Parkinson trying to play it down the line to Mar, intercepted by Iamano. Not a lot of head of her. A change of hands in possession there. Smith, good touch forwards ahead of Roach. Again, that pass has gone astray. Only yards ahead of it to Westerway. And South Melbourne are on the counter here through Pantazopoulos, who beats Wilbert. Still with it. Tries to cut inside. Still has it, Pantazopoulos. Gets the shot off the bar to Collier, who's there. Only a yard away, onside to be able to tap it in. Alexis Pantazopoulos, what play down the right wing position, but it was the mistake in the turnover by Kendra Smith, who had won her time again, gifting it to Westerway and allowing South Melbourne to counter-attack again. Fortuitous, the goal, but deserved.
I take nothing away from Alexis Pantazopoulos. This is the Pantazopoulos show. That was a wonderful strike from, again, a really awkward angle and so nearly snuck inside that far corner. But Emily Collier there to tap it home. Won't have an easier goal at any point really in her career, Emily Collier, than that. 2-0 to the good South Melbourne. Essendon Royals, they've just looked a little bit flat. Let's not forget, they're coming into this game on an almighty winning streak. Their last 8 games they've won, the Royals, but they've just looked a bit flat. And I think a lot of the credit has to go to South Melbourne. They've made this an uncomfortable first 25 minutes for their visitors. And with Alexis Pantazopoulos at the other end, if you can keep out your opposition, you're always in with a good shout of putting yourself in a strong position, as South Melbourne are right now.
You've hit the nail on the head there, Oscar. Essendon Royals have been in fine form since back-to-back losses in round 18 and 19 to Bulleen Lions and Avondale, but just haven't really turned up to play as effective as I would expect them to do so. But they've just been gifting possession far too easily down the middle of the pitch. Papazanis and Wallhead are going to have a very cruisy day if Royals continue to play those high straight balls towards them. It's their bread and butter to be able to clear, especially Bella Wallhead, who is fantastic at being able to go man-to-man and clear any danger that comes towards her. Really commanding in defence and organises it really well. I would expect Essendon Royals now to start settling down and actually passing the ball from side to side and trying to break open this South Melbourne defence. Parkinson plays it down the line, trying to find Koizumi, but it squirms out for a throw-in. And South Melbourne will get it back into play quickly. Iamano into Westaway, who had Wilbert for company, spills out to Collier, who was just ruled out offside by assistant referee Panagiotidis on the far side. Eagle-eyed there on that occasion.
Just taking a look at some of the streams for the around the ground scores, Daniel, and a couple of goals in games which have some consequence for this. Alamein leading Bulleen 1-0, whilst Avondale have taken the lead against Spring Hill. So that means that as things stand on the live ladder, South Melbourne would be leapfrogging Burundara into 5th spot, and Avondale would be leapfrogging Bulleen into 3rd spot. So we'd end up with the 2 sets of elimination finals that we're probably expecting, just a turnaround in terms of which positions are leading to that, with 3rd, 6th then being the Avondale, Burundara, and 4th, 5th being the Bulleen South Melbourne game. Lots still to play out. We'll see how the ladder changes throughout the course of the day, but getting a taste for just how exciting the final day can be with all the different games going on concurrently. And this is, well, an unusual test for the Essendon Royals. They've been doing so much winning over the last couple of months that to find themselves 2 goals behind will be an unfamiliar sensation. We'll see what Jaden von der Hayden can cook up, if he can find a way to get his team back on track. Last time the Royals were 2-0 down in the game was also the last time they lost a game against Avondale back at the start of July. They do, though, of course, have the firepower to turn this one around. This is Westland in the middle of the park for South Melbourne. Pantazopoulos in support and then sends the ball over the top, asking a fair bit of Emily Roach, who did really well to poke it through to Westaway. Royals numbers winning out at the end. Grace Marr wasting no time, hoping to pick out the run from Jenkins. But Wallhead chaperoning the ball back into the gloves of Candy. So very much against the odds the first half hour of this one. South Melbourne 2 goals to the good. The player on the ball right here, Pantazopoulos. A big part of the reason for that. Still running is Alexis Pantazopoulos. Got past Akeisha Sandu belatedly. The assistant's flag did go up for a foul. So Akeisha Sandu will be grateful as her team don't have to deal with another ball into the area from Pantazopoulos. Sorry, actually, to correct myself from before I tell a lie, the last time the Royals were 2-0 down in the game was in the Nike Cup semis when Bulleen scored twice early, and the Royals turned that around to win 4-2, and of course have since gone on to win the Nike Cup itself. So they've got form in coming back from these kinds of deficits. South Melbourne will be a long way from resting on their laurels with a 2-0 advantage.
Well, Oscar, if you told me that Essendon Royals were going to be 2-0 down after 32 minutes, I wouldn't have believed you whatsoever. it's quite interesting, the firepower and where South Melbourne have been able to find their goals this season. Heidi Dalton, she's sitting on the bench and has been coming on as an impact sub for the vast majority of the season. She has 7 goals to her name. I understand 4 of those were against Melbourne City, but their second top goal scorer, Iamano, finds herself at left back. So where have the goals been able to really come from consistently throughout the season has been a headache for Justin Mikulev and his side so far. But Pantazopoulos has come to play today, this afternoon. She is putting an absolute weldy of a performance on that far side and really taking it to Sandu, who has had a licence to be able to push forward, and they probably haven't paid as much respect to South Melbourne. Two goals in a very short period of time across the 23rd and the 26th minute means they find themselves 2-0 up. And counter-attacking football is the omen for today for Hellas. As Taranto fires that throw in down the line, only as far as Smith, who plays it inside to Wilbert. Really clever touch to Grace Maher. Gets her head up, tries to find options. She wants options wider. She finds one in Amy Parkinson, who doesn't have Bronte Peel ahead of her, as she usually does. Finds Wilbert, who's made a fantastic run from midfield. Lays it back to Parkinson. Ignored the reverse pass into Jenkins, making the inverted run. Wall head again there. Towering header. Iamano with the clearance. And Ma puts it out into touch. So, Essendon Royals trying to put pressure on the heart of the South Melbourne defence by having Jenkins and Peel invert in from the touchline and really go player for player, trying to pick out those spaces in behind. And if it works, it looks really good. As we saw earlier on in the game, Bronte Peel with a fantastic reverse pass into McGrowarty, but it was a fantastic tackle in the end by Taranto coming across on Jenkins, who had the ability to have a shot. And since then, I haven't seen too much from the visitors. Koizumi with the clearance into McGrowarty. Ballhead going head-to-head and doing really well defensively so far. I picked that as a battle to be able to watch out for, and Wallhead is certainly up to the task. Westland sprays it out to Pantazopoulos. 1v1 with Sandu. Alexis Pantazopoulos cuts back in on her left. Waiting for options. Manages to still get a cross in, and Collier with the header from about 6 yards out, loops onto the roof of the net. Dangerous play again there from South Melbourne. Unfortunately, on this occasion, even though Pantazopoulos checked back in and then again went towards the byline, was still able to get a cross in. Just probably had a bit too much pepper on it for the University of Portland graduate, Emily Collier, looking for her second of the day. She's scored some absolute cracking goals so far this season, even on her right foot. A goal against Alamein a few weeks ago comes to mind, with about 10 minutes to go to salvage a 1-1 draw there. They're certainly feeling it. Board plays it back to her captain, puts her under a lot of pressure unnecessarily. Ma with a layoff that goes a bit astray, but Kobe Wilbert has probably been Essendon Royals' best player so far, really just digging really hard in midfield and working. These two 4-3-3 formations really putting each other to the test. Koizumi with a bit of a wayward pass, comes off in the end. Jenkins really having to drop deep to be able to find the play. Parkinson gets her head up, finally finds Bronte Peel. 1v1 with Iamano, cuts inside. Bronte Peel laying it back to Wilbert, chip towards the back post, and McGrowarty comes and it's deemed to be a penalty, and I think that's fair. Candy came across, real loud call, 2 fists towards the ball. McGrowarty got there ahead of her just slightly, and even though her header went wide, it was a fantastic decision there by Angelique Manjon to point towards the spot, and McGrowarty will seek some medical assistance there. Oscar, what an impact that was.
Yeah, as you said, Daniel, clear-cut penalty. Kelly McGrowarty got there first. Header was off target, and Gio Candy just came bundling in. It does look as if there's nothing too serious by way of injury, fortunately for Kelly McGrowarty. But what it does mean is it means the chance to continue the record-breaking run is about to present itself for Kelly McGrowarty. McGrady, who has scored in 13 consecutive Senol NPLW Victoria games, now with the chance to make it 14 and to bring the Royals right back into this contest. See Angelique Manjon making sure everyone's the requisite distance back. McGrady placing the ball for the second time. It's Kelly McGrady. 14 consecutive NPLW games in which Kelly McGrady has scored. 37 to her name across all competitions now. 33 in the NPLW competition. Kelly McGrady cannot stop scoring. And with that goal, Essendon Royals are right back into this one at Lakeside.
Gia Candy would love her time back there again. She called it really early, and you can tell how disappointed that she is with her reaction to that. McGrady has barely had a real clear sniff at goal so far this afternoon, getting on the scoreboard there. South Melbourne have held her really well so far, but they've got their way back into this game. And we've seen plenty of times Royals being able to go back-to-back and score really quickly as teams just lose their concentration. We'll see how South Melbourne react. You can just tell they have the wind back in the sails after that goal. They've finally been able to break through, pushing up a little bit higher, trying to go player for player, especially in the midfield. Iamano down the line to Collier, flicks it on. Roach and Koizumi battle. Deemed to be a holding foul from Roach there on Koizumi, and Royals will have an opportunity. With only minutes before half time, you would expect South Melbourne just to drop a few yards deeper and try and take this lead into the sheds. Jenkins now on the ball, dropping into that left back position, cutting inside now. Jenkins just wide of the near post. She's really having to work hard and interchange with Sandu on that far side so far in this first half to be able to pick up the spots where she can be most dangerous. I don't think ideally she wants to be picking up the ball in that half-back position. I would like to think she would be wanting to be wider on the touchline, 1v1 with Taranto, and being able to use her speed and her crossing ability to really test out the South Melbourne defence. But she's having to adapt. Smith over the top there of Roach, and that's a clear foul. She did win the ball, but just probably a little bit too heavy in the back of Roach there on that occasion. A chance for South Melbourne just to resettle. Taranto will look to play the ball down to Pantazopoulos. It's a good pass, and it does find her. 1v1 with Sandu. Good battle forming on that far side. Pantazopoulos, two around her, no South Melbourne blue shirt. She's just shielding it, really, in the corner. And Wilbert does well to be able to take the ball from between her legs and manages to win a throw-in in the end. Sandu not happy with the assistant referee on the far-hand side. Ma flicks it on first time. I've seen that quite a bit so far in the opening 40 minutes. Bronte Peel back to goals with Parkinson overlapping. Decides to come inside. Wilbert tries to switch the play. A little bit loose on that occasion. And Roach is a couple metres offside there and lets the ball roll through to Board. It will be deemed an offside though. And the game has started to go end to end quite quickly. McGrady heading it to herself. Papazanis keeping her for company and doing really well. Has the ball now in this left-back position. Plays it sensibly, just up the line to Westerway, who tries to find the first-time pass as the 18-year-old. Not on this occasion. McGrady laying it off to Koizumi, looking for the run of Jenkins, who has come across. It's a very rotational front three, that Essendon Royals kind of attack line, looking to change and move between positions as they feel comfortable. Peel with the header. Stays in. Collier now. Back to Iamano. Not a lot of space on this near touchline. Iamano does fantastic just to be able to get through. And the Royals defensive line pushed up high on that occasion, and it's another offside, Oscar.
I'll tell you what, Daniel, there's the other, one of the many additional narratives to this game, of course, what's going on down at Casey Fields, where a couple minutes away from half-time across all the kickoffs in NPLW Victoria this afternoon, still 0-0 between Melbourne City and Box Hill. So that means that, well, if Box Hill can't get the win against, we see the offside flag, sorry, but if Box Hill can't find a way to open the scoring against Melbourne City, that would mean a win for Essendon Royals this afternoon would claim the premiership crown. So there's still so much to play for from a Royals perspective. They'll be desperate to get themselves back level and then ahead in this contest, because the prospect of Box Hill dropping points against Melbourne City and Essendon still not being able to claim the premiership, I'm sure would be something that would haunt these players heading into September. They've still got a lot of time, and this game is looking a little bit more favourable for them at the moment, the Essendon Royals. Spending some more time on the ball and in the South Melbourne half, but a little bit too much of the somewhat aimless ball forward from defence, which has limited the attacking efficacy of the Royals thus far. Ayano Koizumi in a little bit of space for Essendon. The ball forward was read the whole way by Wallhead. Now McGrawdy decides to go herself and has a ping from a long way out, but that one nowhere near the same kind of trouble for Gio Candy. About to find out how many additional minutes we will have here at Lakeside in the first half. Perhaps for Essendon Royals to try and bring us back level before the break, or maybe for South Melbourne to reclaim the 2-goal advantage. So fourth official confirming 2 more minutes to be played. Probably the least we can expect with 3 goals having been scored in the half.
Oscar, you might actually be able to help me out with this. I'm a little bit confused as to exactly how Essendon Royals are attacking so far in this game. I've seen on multiple occasions Maggie Jenkins actually coming across to the same side as Bronte Peel, Grace Maher leaving her traditional number 10 role, where we thought she'd be lining up, to be able to drift into spaces. And it just doesn't seem to necessarily be working out, as opposed to them sticking to their kind of structured 4-3-3 positions as we see. How do you think it's going to unfold in the second half? Or is that just how Essendon Royals play, with that freedom?
Yeah, well, it is what the Royals do, the really fluid front line with players popping up in all sorts of different positions, even if essentially that front three of McGrawdy middle, Jenkins on the left, Peel on the right has been somewhat consistent this afternoon. And then you give, a player like Grace Maher, you want to give as much freedom as possible, because we know how good she is all across the park and the technical ability. And just pause that thought as Emily Roach looks to launch a swift South Melbourne counter-attack, but was closed down by about 4 Royal shirts. So they always like to make themselves hard to defend by never being overly predictable, the Royals. I think that the real struggle in this first half has been this part of the game. There's been a lot of long ball sent forward. Wallhead's header there, well, not exactly doing the goalkeeper any favours. Gio Candy watches that roll behind for a Royals corner, so maybe a late chance for the Royals to snag an equaliser. But I think the test for Jaden Londerhayden heading into the second half is to find a way to build the ball up with perhaps a little bit more patience and reliability and control of the ball, because South Melbourne have been doing a pretty good job at defending the aerial balls and the direct approach for most of this afternoon thus far.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Oscar, and kind of clears that up for me, really, at the end of the day. I think if South Melbourne can avoid shooting themselves in the foot, Essendon Royals haven't really done enough in this first half to tell me that they have more goals in them. As the ball comes across directly from the corner, flashing away, and Angelique Manjon puts her whistle to her lips and draws it close this first half with South Melbourne taking the lead 2-1 over Essendon Royals. Just to recap, if you're joining us here so far, on the 23rd minute, Alexis Pantazopoulos scored from an unbelievable angle with her left foot, catching Zara Board off her line as she came to attempt to clear it, giving South Melbourne a lead. And then minutes later, another fantastic run and shot from Pantazopoulos, thundered off the post, where Emily Collier was only a yard off the line to be able to tap it home to make it 2-0. And then Gio Candy decided to give Kelly McGrowarty an almighty punch, with Manjon deeming it to be a foul and a penalty, with McGrowarty stepping up and scoring her 33rd of the regular season so far. But it's 2-1 to South Melbourne. Very interesting second half coming up, and we'll be back shortly. Yeah, Heidi. Pantazopoulos. Hello and welcome back to round 26 action of the Senol NPL Victoria Women's live from Lakeside Stadium here this afternoon, South Melbourne, with a 2-1 lead over Essendon Royals so far, with goals to Pantazopoulos and Collier, with McGrowarty getting on the score sheet for the Essendon Royals. We have a change each from both sides. South Melbourne are bringing on Heidi Dalton for Alexis Pantazopoulos. And we've seen Kendra Smith make way for what we believe is Paige Kingston-Hogg, with Grace Maher looking to go back into that central defensive position. And Kingston-Hogg will go into the midfield for Essendon Royals. Surprising to say the least, Pantazopoulos I thought was one of the better players for South Melbourne in that first half, but they've made a change nonetheless and look to apply immediate pressure. Westaway lays it off to Westland, who tries and plays it up the pitch to Heidi Dalton. It just goes out of play. Jenkins now on the ball. Certainly handy having someone of the versatility of Grace Maher in your team, being able to transition so easily from midfield into that defensive position.
Yeah, and just on Alexis Pantazopoulos being withdrawn, obviously from a neutral perspective, it's a shame because of how incredible she was in that first 45. We certainly hope that there's no injury concern, which has seen her withdrawn, but you totally understand Justin Mikulev making the decision to preserve one of his star assets a week ahead of finals.
It means that Heidi Dalton has certainly got some shoes to fill, going 1v1 with Keisha Sandhu on this near-hand side. Grace Maher looking to pick out McGrowarty on that far wing. Koizumi with the ball, laying it out to Parkinson. He gets it back. Plays it into Peel. And McGrowarty tries to fire in the cross, blocked on this occasion. So Essendon Royals will still be looking, as they did in the first half, catching South Melbourne offside on numerous occasions, really pushing up extremely high up the field. And if South Melbourne can be able to break that high defensive line, they're one-on-one with Board. Cross comes in from Parkinson high, only as far as Westland, who clears. Iamano gets there ahead of Peel. Westaway with the header, and it's just an absolute scramble in the middle of the pitch at the moment. Collier playing it up the line, but just out of play on this occasion. Parkinson to Peel. That combination originating from northern New South Wales with Maitland FC. And it's certainly a combination that I look forward in seeing a little bit more in the second half. Parkinson and Peel linking up. Maher again with the long ball forward. Over the head of Iamano, who does really well to be able to get her right toe on that and just take it away from the path of Peel. Well, sorry, Parkinson on that occasion. Iamano returning it to Schmelzer, who switches the play really well out to Dalton. Her first touch. Taranto now. Coming infield. Great first time pass from Schmelzer. And Dalton just lets the ball run away from her on that occasion. I like that play from South Melbourne, though. Michaela Schmelzer finding more and more room in that defensive midfield position just to be able to dictate the play. One of the few players in the competition that has experience in both Kazakhstan and Greece, as well as a basketball background. Great touch from Emily Roach. Falls to Westland, who plays it forwards into Dalton, but just ruled offside again on that occasion. The high defensive line of Royals coming into play there. They certainly condense and make it really difficult for the opposition teams to be able to play through, which is why you tend to see a more direct approach from teams playing Essendon Royals. Iamano comes away with that, plays it into Westaway, and the 1-2 just not on play there in that circumstance. Parkinson fires it into Peel. They'll win another throw in and just gain some territorial advantage. Papatzanis doing really well to be able to track. That combination of Papatzanis and Wallhead in central defence has been really good so far in this game, making it really difficult for Royals to be able to create those clear-cut chances that we spoke about in the first half. And it looks like McGrowaty's really looking to fire this one in. Quite a long run-up on this throw-in. Wonder how far it'll go. Nearly all the way to the 6-yard box, cleared by Schmelzer. Roach heads it down into Westaway, into the path of Collier, who does really well to get there first and drive towards the byline. Emily Collier now getting her head up, crossing towards the box, but cut off really well by Michaela Jurcic.
Well, not every day you see a team employing their top scorer and best striker as the long throw specialist for Kelly McGrawdy, demonstrating that she can do just about anything on a football pitch this season. A really nice counter-attacking move from South Melbourne as well. Some much-needed relief, having been under the defensive cosh for so long. And I think Angelique Manjon just apologising or explaining to Misha Westland what's going on there with the referee getting in the way. Of course, this game happening concurrently to all the other fixtures across NPLW Victoria this afternoon. We are early in the second half in all of those games, and a few surprise results currently being thrown up. Alamein leading Bulleen, Keilor Park leading Burundara, and Melbourne City and Box Hill still at 0-0. Plus, of course, this game, in which South Melbourne, surprisingly, you'd have to say, lead the Royals 2-1. So it's only really Avondale who are playing by the script, or what you'd maybe expect heading into today's games. It does still mean that as things stand, South Melbourne will be finishing 5th and playing Bulleen, who will finish 4th, with Avondale finishing 3rd and hosting Burundara, who finished 6th in elimination finals. And Essendon Royals, well, facing the prospect of missing out on the premiership despite Box Hill failing to beat Melbourne City. Of course, everything could still change between now and the final whistle across Melbourne this afternoon. And Essendon Royals just hoping to get back into another pattern of possession play. Saw Bronte Peel there showing for the ball. Maybe some indication of an attempt to be a little bit smarter with the build after Royals. They've won the ball back in the South Melbourne half here through Koizumi. Koizumi bringing out the flicks and tricks a little bit early in the second half. Peel has a couple to contend with. It has been the case for most of the afternoon. Essendon Royals attackers just crowded out by South Melbourne numbers time and time again. Kelly McGrawdy dropping deep and deciding to take matters into her own hands and draws the foul as well. So the Royals with an opportunity to deliver the dead ball into the penalty area. Akeisha Sandhu trudging over is the most likely candidate for the delivery. Grace Maher as well, taking up a position which suggests she might be keen to deliver it into the area. It'll be the right boot of Sandu, deep into the area, just over the head of Kingston Hogg in the end. There was an attempt to turn the ball towards goal, but that one never likely to trouble Gio Candy. Forgive Maggie Jenkins for having a strike from that position, considering her scoring record. That goal from Kelly McGrawdy in the first half, taking her NPLW tally to 33 this season, matching Catherine Zimmerman's tally from back in 2019. Still 10 fewer than the 43 she scored the year prior. Of course, a very different competition back then. In those years of colder dominance. Chance here again for the Royals to get across into the penalty area, and they'll settle for a corner. Be an in-swinger coming from the left boot of Grace Maher, as the Royals just look to apply the pressure with a little bit more strength early in this second half. Turn towards goal by Koizumi. You saw the idea. That would have taken the sweetest of strikes, and in the end, Gio Candy is grateful to watch the ball once again flying wide of the frame of their goal.
Koizumi had a goal very similar to that scenario last week against Heidelberg, just sitting at the top of the 18-yard box. A fantastic chest and volley to be able to beat the Heidelberg keeper last week. That would have been a superb effort that would have matched that and gone beyond it from a technical perspective. Something to be able to watch out for. I'm just keen to see how South Melbourne can be able to adapt with Pantzopoulos coming off at half-time, whether they can continue to attack with the same vigour that they had in that first half to really be able to test out the Essendon Royals defence, who so far in the second half have started quite strongly and are looking to continue to apply that pressure on South Melbourne, slowly but surely wearing them down as Westaway comes away with it into Collier, who tries to find the feet of Roach, cut off by Jurcic. Papatzanis just fires it up the touchline and just squirms out of play on that occasion. So South Melbourne with an opportunity. They've earned themselves the throw-in, must have taken a nick off an Essendon Royals player, Iamano, into Emily Roach, who plays it first time to Collier, but again ruled offside. South Melbourne just need to keep an eye on that for the remainder of this second half, ensuring that they're timing their runs. 2 balls on the pitch. Bit of confusion there. Jurcic deep in the right-hand corner of her defensive line. Plays it up, really well won by Schmelzer in the middle of the park. And now with clear possession, looking to be able to play through. Koizumi now on it. Just a loose touch, ends up getting a toe on it, and they play out of pressure to Sandu with space ahead of it. Decides to chop inside, tries to find the feet of McGrawdy. They just weren't on the same wavelength on that occasion. And South Melbourne just struggling to be able to play out of their defensive pressure. Ma bringing it forwards. McGrawdy keeps it in. Should be an Essendon Royals throw, which it is. McGrawdy takes it really quickly. Maggie Jenkins flicks it inside. We've seen that plenty of times this season. cut off really well by Taranto, who fires it into the arm of Maggie Jenkins, who, if you don't know, just signed for Perth Glory just recently, the 25-year-old New Zealand-born winger. Has been one of the highlights from an attacking perspective for Essendon Royals this season. Can really turn a game at any moment as Ma wins a header. Down into Jenkins, who just can't quite keep it in play. Schmelzer with a quick throw into Roach. Kobe Wilbert does really well to be able to spin and find a pass into the feet of McGroarty. Another great turn. Beats one. Looks to beat two. Great play there from McGroarty, getting it out to Jenkins. 1v1 now with Taranto. And it's deemed to be a free kick for South Melbourne. I thought there, Oscar, that Taranto may have actually mistimed that tackle and Jenkins did really well, but it was seen to be the other way. And South Melbourne now with an opportunity.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to trust Angelique Manjon, who is in a much better position to judge the tackle as having gotten to the ball first. And there didn't look to be a great deal of complaint from Maggie Jenkins in that regard. More of the questions to the referee coming from the subsequent award of a free kick to South Melbourne, as we see Emily Collier attempting to nip back the ball. But you do have to say, South Melbourne, I mean, it's worth remembering these two teams met earlier in the season at Cross Keys, and on that day, Essendon Royals were pretty dominant, 4-0 up by this stage of the game, and Franny Amado pulled one back soon after to make it 4-1, but they've looked much more competitive this time around, South. They've done an excellent job at limiting the attacking threat of particularly Bronte Peel and Maggie Jenkins. There's only so much you can do against Kelly McGroarty, but they've really made life uncomfortable for their visitors this afternoon, and that's a really positive sign heading into finals, as we see Keisha Sandhu hoping to latch onto that loose ball, but Bella Wallhead, as she does so often, reading the ball better than anyone else. Mustn't forget that the premiership is still on the line for Essendon Royals. They probably have to win to give themselves any chance at it. Keisha Sandhu looking towards Peel with the throw. Well, I suppose if you're Jaden von der Hayden, you'd be grateful for this game to come at this stage, rather than, well, we see Bronte Peel causing a little bit of strife with Gio Candy, who held onto the ball for a little bit too long. And that deflection could have gone anywhere. Thankfully for the South Melbourne goalkeeper, it went right into their path rather than that of Bronte Peel. But Jaden von der Hayden, you'd think, would be glad that the off day that his team have had in this first hour has happened now rather than in a few weeks' time when they're playing a home preliminary final, or indeed the week after when they could find themselves in a grand final. Threatens here to boil over, rather, as Misha Westland with the shove on McGroarty. Throw in taken quickly, though, by the Royal striker, who arrives now at the edge of the area, but that one was never particularly likely. Difficult on the left boot, arriving in the penalty area with the ball fizzed back at her by Bronte Peel.
I've never seen Kelly McGroarty picking up positions as wide as she has done so far in this game all season, really drifting out to either flank when she feels that she needs to be able to pick up the ball and create these attacking opportunities for Essendon Royals so far. It's really a credit to that central defensive pairing of Wallhead and Papatzanis in being able to marshal her so far. Only a goal from a penalty spot is what the best defence in the league have been able to give her so far. As Emily Roach, just earlier, 30 seconds ago, pulling out some basketball moves, getting two hands to that bouncing ball. You can definitely tell that the South Melbourne bench is starting to get more and more vocal as this game goes on, but Essendon Royals really need 2 more goals. They've got a title on the line here. And maybe from what I've seen so far in this game, I'm just expecting a little bit more.
Well, and the big update from Casey Fields is that Box Hill have scored the opening goal. So Pythagoras now, their destiny in their own hands, and looking to make it so that even if the Essendon Royals were to turn this one around, Box Hill would still be taking home the premiership. So that news for Essendon Royals, but they're none the wiser and they'll want to keep pushing against South.
Heidi Dalton with an opportunity to get at Akeisha Sandhu, who does really well, Sandhu, being able to rob possession so cleanly. And now Royals have an opportunity to counter-attack if Wilbert can pick the right pass. She finds Bronte Peel, 1v1 now with Iamano, comes inside to the numbers, and a great tackle from Iamano. Just possession changing hands constantly so far in the beginning of the second half. Both teams coming out a little bit sloppy out of the sheds. Not as clean as I thought they would. An example of that is Taranto just putting her foot through it across the field, trying to find Collier. It bounces out for another throw-in. The touchline certainly getting a workout here at Lakeside Stadium so far today. Koizumi now picking it up on the far wing. Appeared to be fouled, but wave play on. Seemed to be a slip there from Angelique Manjon as opposed to any dirty foul play there. Iamano will take her time returning this ball back into play. There's certainly no need for the hosts to be in a rush, 2-1 up and quite comfortable, but just kind of lacking that attacking thrust so far early in this second half. Haven't really created anything too clear cut. Papatzanis fires it into Schmelzer. That could have gone anywhere. Emily Roach really deep picking it up now. You can certainly tell the game plan for South Melbourne is being able to find the feet of Emily Roach, who can lay it off, and then a midfielder can pick out the on-running wingers beyond this very high Essendon Royals defence. Kingston Hogg plays it back to Jurcic, fires it up the field. Papatzanis comes across and is able to clear. McGrowarty again taking another throw in, trying to find Peel. Parkinson comes across. Taranto does really well to come across in Jenkins, and a great feat from Grace Taranto, and the play all of a sudden opens up. Emily Collier sprinting, running through, getting on towards that through pass and cutting inside on her right foot, firing off a shot. We've seen that multiple times this season. End up nestling in the back of the net, not on this occasion, just high, wide and over the bar. And Essendon Royals have an opportunity now to just settle after a quick counter-attack there from South Melbourne. Some great feet from Taranto to be able to create that opportunity in the first place. And that's all of a sudden what it can take, a little bit of skill, beating one or two players, and the space just opens up massively. Westland out to Iamano, cutting back on her preferred right foot and getting her head up, trying to find the feet of Westerway. Royals doing really well to just compact that middle of the pitch. McGrowarty putting pressure on Papatzanis. Kingston Hogg does really well to pick up the loose ball. Grace Marr looking for the chip into Peel. Really well won there by Wallhead in the air. Koizumi comes away with it. It's just a scrap so far, Oscar, so far in these last couple minutes. Both teams just going head-to-head for each other. Strong calls for holding from the South Melbourne bench. Angelique Manjon not interested. And it will be a throw to Essendon Royals. And there will be a change made for South Melbourne. Sophie Papatzanis coming off the field, as is Clancy Westerway. So it will look like to be Daniela Squatrito coming on to the right wing position. Heidi Dalton will go into the number 9. Emily Roach will come back into the 10. And in central defence for South Melbourne, it will be Annabelle Haffenden who has come on. So 2 changes there for South Melbourne, just to be able to change the momentum of this second half so far. The lightning wheels of Daniela Squatrito will certainly test out this Essendon Royals defence with so much space that they're leaving in behind, and Board playing that more sweeper-keeping role. The Royals with a small spell of possession here, urged to be able to press on from the South Melbourne bench and really close them down. Board with a risky pass right down the middle of the pitch, nearly came off. Essendon trying to fire the ball up the pitch. Taranto wants that run from Squatrito, who will chase this one down and will get there first. Tries to cross it in first time and just not coming off on that occasion, Oscar.
Yeah, well, you called it a scrap a few minutes ago, and I think that's probably fair to say. And the reality is that's, I would think, much more what Justin Mikulev would want than Jaden von der Hayden. They've been doing it for most of the afternoon, South, just denying Essendon any rhythm or consistency to their play, which has been so hard to stop when they get on a roll, Essendon Royals. They haven't really been able to get going for large parts of this afternoon. That ball through could cause a little bit of trouble for Zara Board. Daniela Squatrito to capitalise. Well, a bit of discussion in the aftermath as to whether a whistle should have come. It doesn't look as if it did in the end. And that attempt for Daniela Squatrito would have counted had it been just the right side of the post. So it's an escape in the end for the Essendon Royals. Some appeals, I think, from the South Melbourne bench for a penalty perhaps. But at the end of all of that, or in fact it looked as if a foul was called, as Zara Board restarting play from where the infringement was deemed to have occurred. So a little bit of confusion there, but in the end, plays back underway with the scoreline remaining South 2-1 to the good. Of course, that change bringing Annie Haffenden on, a much more natural central defender than Sophie Papatsanis. Haffenden, of course, at this stage a seasoned campaigner, played at A-League level for a number of seasons as well. And we'll have some defending to do here as McGrady looks to make a venture inside the South penalty area. Clever turn away from goal, uses the supporting run from Sandu. Ball sent in, Board by Koizumi. Could get another crack at it, Ayano Koizumi, but that one right off the side of the boot. Saw the little overhead touch from Jenkins. Maggie Jenkins scored twice when these two teams met earlier in the season, but has looked nowhere near as threatening this afternoon. Here's Roach. Dalton. Squatrito and Collier both in the middle, but wasn't even able to get the shot away. Schmelzer winning back possession high up for South. Squatrito the substitute. Koizumi had to time that tackle correctly and did so. Another scramble just outside the penalty area there. And finally, Angelique Manjon does intervene to award Essendon Royals a free kick. Royals do have a winning record against their fellow finals contenders. 6 wins and 4 losses from the 10 games they've played against teams who will also be competing in the finals. That's some really strong pressing on that left flank delivered, and potentially Emily Roach will be the beneficiary. Here's Roach, Dalton in the middle for South Melbourne's third. The touch just got away from Heidi Dalton. And in the end, Essendon Royals scramble it behind. They have conceded a corner in the process, that very nearly opening up for Heidi Dalton to perhaps put the game to bed.
That was a remarkable opportunity, and had Heidi Dalton just got her touch sorted a little bit better, closer to her feet, she would have been able to fire off a shot there, which absolutely would have troubled Board from that close of a range. Could have made it 3-1 really easily, but they'll have another opportunity from this corner. Roach to be able to deliver this one in. It will be an out-swinging ball, looking for Isabella Wallhead, who we know how dangerous she is from these areas. No one really gets clean contact to it. It's fired back in, blocked on this occasion. Dalton with the effort on the half volley, but Sandu was there, closest to, just to be able to get something on it. And Essendon Royals clear their lines in the end. They've just got to be so careful in possession, Essendon, because South Melbourne do have the ability to be able to take them by surprise. Great 1-2 there by Iamano and Collier, just over the head of Squatrito. Had she been a few feet taller, she would have got her head on that one. Taranto with the first-time delivery into the box towards Roach, who gets the header, but just not enough power and direction on it to beat Board, who comes away with it. Collier comes across really strong with her left foot. As Squatrito just coming back on from an onside position. Deemed to be offside. It'll be Kobe Wilbert making way for Ava Grober. Change for Essendon Royals. If you're just joining us, it's just ticked over the 75-minute mark here at Lakeside Stadium, with South Melbourne still 2-1 to the good. And although Essendon Royals have done the majority of the knocking on the door, they haven't been able to bust it open as of yet in the second half. Jurcic with the long ball right down the centre of the pitch, cleared really well there by Wallhead. McGrady back to goal. Held there by Wallhead, tries to turn. I can tell that she's getting frustrated, McGrady, every time that there's contact from the South Melbourne defender that goes amiss. Bronte Pill takes a touch, looks to be able to get a shot off, but her touch just went away from her on that occasion. The ball just pinballing around. But she found the opportunity and beat her man, but just wasn't able to fire off a shot to be able to test out Candy in goals. And Essendon Royals have a corner now with Ma placed over this one, looking to just really drop it in the 6-yard area where there's so many numbers piled around, which is exactly what she does. Cleared away. And the forward attempt, Candy saves off the post and cleared. An unbelievable attempt there. And Candy did a fantastic job just to get two hands to it and palm it away.
I mean, what a strike from Ayana Koizumi. We've seen it already in this game, the kind of turning your body, just throwing a boot at it. And that one was on target and a sensational save from Gio Candy to turn it away onto the post.
South Melbourne just trying to clear their lines. They eventually do, only as far as Ma, who's made her way back into centre-back from that corner. Finds a really good pass to Koizumi. He takes it on the half turn, beats Schmelzer. Twisting and turning is Koizumi with that small frame of hers. Tries to win a foul. Peel takes over. Cleared again by Taranto. Anywhere will do from her so far in this second half. That layoff by Roach just beyond the feet of Squatrito. And you can tell both players are tiring. The intensity of this game has certainly lifted in the second half. So many fast, quick, vertical attacking opportunities created from both teams, looking to just get up the pitch as quickly as possible rather than trying to create and slow down and move the ball from side to side. Koizumi finds Kingston Hogg, who has made her way into centre-back. Temporarily trying to build up the play. pass into midfield. And Koizumi spreads the play to Ma. Essendon Royals just throwing players forward at this point. Peel now, 1v1 with Taranto. She'll want to get to the byline. Just beats Taranto. And Westland does really well to be able to come across and smother the attempted cutback there from Peel, who did quite well to be able to beat Taranto in the first place. Taranto has been quite solid in those 1v1 defensive scenarios. Just letting Peel get the better of her on that occasion. And Royals will, again, flood the box with numbers. This time South Melbourne are a little bit more cautious of the threat coming from the top of the box. Koizumi making her way towards the back post. Probably not the favourite to win it in the air. Sandhu lofts it towards Candy, who claims really well from that corner, offering South Melbourne some relief as she urges her players to get forward and thumps it down towards this near touchline. Ma first to meet it, and Taranto again not interested in playing at all, just half volleys it straight to Dalton, and Kingston Hogg comes away with it, tries to switch the play. Iamano first to it. Haffenden with the header, and a lot of space now has opened up in the middle of the park. Squatrito chasing this one down. She'll get there. Elects to cross first time when she could have taken a touch and try and take the play to Sandhu, who ended up intercepting it with her left toe, poking it out for a corner. So end-to-end stuff, Oscar. The pattern seemingly continuing so far. And it'll be a corner for South Melbourne, with Roach looking to whip this one in.
Yeah, and getting a more and more open game, as you'd expect, as we head into the final 10 minutes of the regular season. Just do a whip around of the scores around the grounds as we head into the final stages of each game in just a moment. But first, South Melbourne with another chance to extend their lead. Roach's corner delivery is not one for the highlights reel, but we'll get a second crack at it. That's a better delivery. Finds a teammate's head. It's 3 for South Melbourne. Emily Roach got the second delivery spot on, and there was no missing from close range. 3-1 to the good are South Melbourne, and they're looking like heading into finals on a winning note.
Haffenden just peeled off the Essendon Royals defence there and had so much time in front of goal just to be able to steer that one past Zara Board. And like you said, Oscar, it was a fantastic second delivery. Probably actually suited Emily Roach, the rolling ball coming back to her on her left peg, just to be able to whip that one high and beyond the defence. But it was a really well executed header. And you would think that the game is out of touch here for the Royals. South Melbourne find themselves 3-1 up. Quite a surprise. But they've been well worth it and hung on in there. And you would think Essendon Royals will continue to be able to throw players forward, leaving that opportunity for the counter-attack still on. But a great header from Haffenden, getting her first goal of the season. Has had to nurse a back injury for large parts of it and hasn't really had much game time. Being introduced to the bench a couple of weeks ago, there she is, trying to be able to spread the play, goes out of touch on this occasion. But Oscar, what a surprise so far this afternoon. South Melbourne with 3 goals. As Jurcic plays it right down the middle of the park, looking for the run of Jenkins. McGrowarty trying to pick up the loose ball. Kept really well for company there from Wallhead. McGrowarty just stomps both her heels into the ground in frustration. Not happy with that. Taranto with the touch. And as she's done in this second half, just fires a long direct ball over the Essendon Royals defence. And Ma will be able to shield this one out of play.
Yeah, a bit of frustration getting the better of Kelly McGrawdy there. It's been a difficult afternoon to be an Essendon Royals forward in what's been such a wonderful season to watch, and I'm sure to be a part of. Annie Haffenden coming off the bench to score that goal. A goal which, well, will surely confirm Box Hill as premiers this season. Royals maybe have just a little bit of fight left in them as they once again head towards the penalty area, but it looks as if this result, not the only surprise in the offing. Still Keilor Park lead against Burundara, which would mean that South Melbourne do leapfrog the Eagles to move into 5th spot. That ball in comfortably watched by Gio Candy, and still Alamein lead Bulleen, which would mean that Avondale jump over the top of the Lions, and we do end up with the matchups that we were expecting, just in a different order. Alamein will no doubt be kicking themselves. The idea of actually getting the win against Bulleen this afternoon, having really slipped up against Melbourne Victory last time out to cost themselves a real crack at the finals. But in any case, this game for South Melbourne, if they're able to see it off, would be such a huge win. The offside flag there will deny Heidi Dalton. But to go into the finals campaign having endured really a couple of your worst months of the season, but to pick up a win against the Nike Cup champions on the final day of the season, it'll be a massive boon for South Melbourne and their finals prospects. A couple of changes coming in from the Royals. From the looks of things, Grace Ma and Akeisha Sandhu are the two players to be withdrawn. I believe Alessia Bresciano is one of the players who's been thrown on. That's a straight swap with Sandhu at left fullback. Looks of things, Emma Langley, the other player to have been introduced. So an attacking change from Jaden von der Hayden, throwing everything at these final few minutes. His team's winning run of 8 straight games looks like it'll be coming to an end. They'll be sure to continue throwing everything at these final few minutes of action. The Royals, who will finish second on the NPLW Victoria ladder. Still a remarkable achievement to go with their Nike Cup crown. And of course the potential for one step even further in the final weeks of the season. Would play the highest ranked of the elimination final winners, the Essendon Royals. Good run once more from Jenkins, but shoved over the line. In terms of who that top-ranked elimination final winner would be on the seedings, as things stand, it would be Avondale. That is, if Bulleen can't find an equalising goal in the final minutes of their game at Dorothy Laver West Reserve. And with that ball out of play, South Melbourne will take the opportunity to make another change of their own. Emily Roach's afternoon comes to an end. And Bronte Peel does as well for Essendon Royals, that is make way. So Bronte Peel makes way for Mercedes McNabb, whilst for South Melbourne it's 17-year-old Kira Tyler, who will take up a spot on the pitch for the final minutes of this one. Well, you wonder, Daniel, whether the fight has finally been sucked out of Essendon Royals with just a couple minutes remaining in the 90.
That third goal from South Melbourne really took the wind out of the sails, but I haven't been overly impressed with Essendon Royals' ability to just stay calm and composed in this second half. I had a feeling that their free-flowing attacking combinations weren't really being able to break down this South Melbourne defence, who weren't really interested in where the Essendon Royals attacking players moved. But as long as they were in the right spots to be able to clear this direct threat that they've had, South Melbourne haven't been able to really make any glaringly obvious mistakes to be able to let the Royals back into this game. whilst the visitors, in my opinion, haven't really created anything clear-cut in this second half to deserve them being able to find a second goal into the game, or at least one from open play so far. As again, the ball will squirm out for another corner. These deliveries by Mercedes McNabb really kind of testing out South Melbourne. Besides that one from a short corner, easily cleared away by Kira Tyler there. I just felt like they've panicked a little bit in this second half and played into the hands of South Melbourne. Parkinson now chipping the ball into the 18-yard box, cleared easily by Schmelzer. Kingston Hogg to Grober, delivers again inside the box. Westland clears. Parkinson fires it into Kingston Hogg, who has a really good touch, pivots and plays out wide. And it's just gone out of play from Bresciano on this occasion. Taranto, long throw down the pitch. Heidi Dalton comes away with it, but just can't find the pass. Wallhead again, one of the numerous headers that she's won all afternoon, has had a really good performance. Has Bella Wallhead in the heart of the defence. Been one of South Melbourne's better players. Dalton tries to be able to flick that one with her back heel. Doesn't come off on that occasion. Royals just trying to get the ball forwards at any cost. Haffenden tracking that one down. Grober behind her, but cleared by Iamano. Westland battling with McNabb. And it's that same pattern. South Melbourne just at any opportunity they have to be able to clear the ball over the defence of Essendon Royals, they will try to. Langley getting her right foot to it. Coming into that right full-back position for the last few minutes of the game. But South Melbourne will certainly be very happy to take this form into the finals, where it might not affect Essendon Royals so much. I'm sure they can be able to swallow this pill and be able to move on very quickly with a fresh mentality and attitude for next week. But I think it's the overall play that would concern the Essendon Royals coach the most. As Westland tracks that one down and is happy just to be able to clear it out for a throw-in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Jaden Wonder-Hayden understands that you can't play well every week, and they've been playing well an awful lot for the last little while, Essendon Royals, so perhaps they were due an off day, which isn't to take away any credit from South Melbourne for their work. But yeah, as you say, I'm sure they'll be able to brush this one off ahead of a home preliminary final. South Melbourne, this of course will be their last game at Lakeside this season. They'll head to either Avenger Park or the Veneto Club to take on Avondale or Bulleen, depending on whether Bulleen can grab an equalising goal in the final minutes of their game against Alamein. That will finish after this one, so for anyone watching, be sure to keep an eye on the Dribble app or the other streams to find out for sure what the destination will be for South Melbourne. But it's a real message to the rest of the competition from Hellas to beat this Essendon Royals team, who've looked nigh on unbeatable over the last couple of months, showing themselves as legitimate contenders and a team that will not just be easy beats and a straightforward walkthrough for whoever it is that they come up against. Angelique Manjon blows the whistle for full time. It's a fantastic afternoon for South Melbourne. They close out their season at Lakeside with a win against Essendon Royals. The Royals fall short of the Premier's plate, but head into September knowing that they are still one of the hot favourites for the crown of champions come the final day of the season. For South Melbourne, it looks as if they will have earned themselves a 5th spot finish rather than 6th, and we'll wait and see how all the other games finish up to confirm those elimination final fixtures, but something to take into their elimination final next weekend, Daniel Christie.
Absolutely, Oscar, and it's been a pleasure to be able to cover this game with you this afternoon. And although it wasn't to be for Essendon Royals being able to potentially clinch a historic premiership this afternoon, it was a fantastic win for South Melbourne, overcoming Essendon 3-1 today. Just to recap the goals, on the 23rd minute, the scoring was opened by Alexis Pantazopoulos with an unbelievable strike from a ridiculous angle. And then 3 minutes later, Emily Collier from 1 yard out was able to tap it home to give South Melbourne a 2-0 lead before Essendon Royals got one back on the 38th minute via Kelly McGrawdy, scoring her 33rd of the season from the penalty spot. And then it was all put to bed on the 80th minute by Annabelle Haffenden, scoring a header from about 6 yards out from a wonderful delivery from Emily Roach after she miscued her corner kick, getting her 7th assist of the season. But to wrap things up from Lakeside Stadium this afternoon, I've been your commentator, Daniel Christie, joined by Oscar Rutherford. There's still action remaining in this season, so look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much.